The stars looked different from the observation deck of the UES Pathfinder. Captain Olivia Dunn stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as the massive ring-shaped station grew larger in the viewport. This was it. Humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Concord, an alliance of 17 advanced alien species that had been watching Earth for decades before deciding humans were ready for an invitation. "Captain, they're sending docking instructions," said Lieutenant Greg Barnes from his station. His voice betrayed the same mix of excitement and nervousness they all felt. Olivia nodded. "Send confirmation and alert the contact team to prepare." As the ship's AI handled the complex docking procedures, Olivia turned to the two people who would join her on this historic mission. Dr. Alan Foster, with his salt and pepper beard and kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled, was Earth's leading xenobiologist. Commander Jack Miller stood ramrod straight in his dress uniform, the tough military strategist selected to assess potential threats. "Remember," Olivia said quietly, "we represent all of humanity today." Alan adjusted his glasses. "No pressure, right?" Jack merely nodded, his eyes never leaving the approaching station. The Pathfinder shuddered slightly as docking clamps engaged. A soft hiss indicated the airlock was forming a seal with the alien structure. "Well," Olivia said, straightening her uniform, "let's make history." The three humans walked through the connecting tube into a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. The walls curved in impossible angles, made of a material that seemed both solid and flowing. Light came from everywhere and nowhere at once. 5 different alien species waited for them. The tallest stood nearly 8 feet high with golden fur and a mane that shimmered under the lights. This was Ambassador Lorcan of the Vaderii, the warrior, race that led the Concord's military. Beside him floated a crystalline being that refracted light in dazzling patterns, Delegate Shisol of the Genta, masters of technology beyond human understanding. The others were just as strange. The 6-limbed Elendrians with their color-changing skin, the insectoid Meerith, and the gelatinous Quarax who communicated through pattern ripples across their transparent bodies. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Ambassador Lorcan said, his voice a deep rumble that they heard despite the lack of moving lips. "The Universal Translator will facilitate our communication. You may experience some delay or oddity in translation." Olivia stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this invitation and look forward to peaceful relations." The Elendrian diplomat's skin shifted to a pleased blue pattern. "We have observed your kind for some time. Your achievement of faster-than-light travel qualified you for contact, though you are still quite young." The meeting continued in a grand chamber where representatives from all 17 species had gathered to witness humanity's introduction. Questions flew at the human delegation from all directions. "Your ships contain 3 separate life support systems. Why such waste?" asked a Genta engineer. "It's not waste," Jack explained. "It's redundancy. If one system fails, the others keep the crew alive." The crystalline being made a sound like tinkling glass. Laughter. "Failure is exceedingly rare with proper design." Similar reactions came when they discussed Earth's approach to medicine, energy production, and defense. Each time, the aliens seemed amused or confused by humanity's focus on backup systems, worst-case planning, and safety protocols. During a brief recess, Alan whispered to Olivia, "They think we're paranoid." "Maybe we are by their standards," she replied. "But our history taught us these lessons the hard way." The final presentation came from the Vaderii High Commander, a scarred warrior named Grax, who displayed holographic images of the Concord's military might. Planet-sized defense stations, ships that could destroy stars, weapons beyond human imagination. "The Concord has known peace for 3,000 years, he boasted. "No enemy would dare challenge us." Jack raised his hand. "What contingency plans exist if your primary defenses fail?" The room went silent. Then a ripple of that strange alien laughter moved through the assembly. High Commander Grax's golden eyes narrowed. "Your species thinks like prey, always fearing predators. We eliminated all threats generations ago." Later, during the formal ceremony accepting Earth as a provisional member of the Concord, the humans overheard the Elendrian diplomat speaking, to a colleague. "They are like children who fear the dark," the alien said, skin flashing in patterns of amusement. "They build redundancies for redundancies. They imagine threats where none exist." "The cowardly species," agreed the other. "Though, perhaps they will grow wiser with our guidance." The humans said nothing but exchanged glances. This wasn't the first time they'd been underestimated. 3 days later, as the Pathfinder prepared to return to Earth with the good news of peaceful contact, Olivia found herself again on the observation deck with Alan and Jack. "They think we're backward," Jack said, watching the stars. "All our preparation, our caution, they see it as primitive fear." Alan nodded. "The Genta engineer called our medical quarantine protocols charmingly paranoid. They haven't had a pandemic in their recorded history. Lucky them," Olivia said quietly. "Humanity learned through suffering what they learned through prosperity." She turned to her companions. "The Council wants Earth to update our systems, remove the redundancies, streamline our approach to match theirs." "And what did you tell them?" Jack asked. "I told them we'd consider their recommendations." She smiled slightly. "But some habits are hard to break." As the Pathfinder disconnected from the station and set course for Earth, Olivia couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Concord was amazing, peaceful, advanced, seemingly perfect, but something about their confidence bothered her. "Lieutenant Barnes," she called. "When we're clear of the station, run a full system diagnostic." "Captain?" he questioned. "We just did one before docking." "I know," she said. "Let's do another one anyway." From across the bridge, she caught Jack's eye. He nodded slightly in approval. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe humans were too cautious, too focused on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. But that caution had kept humanity alive through ice ages and plagues, through wars and disasters. The stars streaked past as the Pathfinder jumped to FTL speed. Olivia Dunn watched them blur, wondering what lessons Earth would learn from the Conquered, and what lessons the Conquered might need to learn from Earth. Neither she nor anyone else in the human delegation could have guessed how soon those lessons would be tested, or how grateful the mighty Concord would one day be for humanity's cowardly preparation. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Concord as a provisional member. The initial excitement had settled into routine as humans began working alongside alien species throughout conquered space. For most, it was a dream come true. Advanced technology, peaceful cooperation, and the stars within reach. But not everyone felt at ease with their new allies. Dr. Samantha Wright peered at her monitor in the dimly lit observatory on Station Epsilon, a joint human-alien research post at the edge of conquered space. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she rubbed her tired eyes as she studied the unusual readings for the 3rd time. "There it is again," she muttered, tracing a finger along the energy spike that appeared at the edge of their sensor range. Something large was out there, moving in a pattern that didn't match any known Concord ship. The door to the observatory slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Thrax, her Vidari supervisor, ducked his massive frame through the entrance. His golden mane was braided in the formal style of Vidari military officers. "Working late again, Dr. Wright?" His voice rumbled through the room. "Your kind requires more rest than ours. This is inefficient." Samantha straightened. "Commander, I've detected something unusual at Grid Sector 87. Take a look at these energy signatures." Thrax glanced at her screen with obvious disinterest. "Sensor ghosts. Perhaps cosmic radiation interfering with your equipment." "I've ruled that out. These readings have appeared in the same region 3 times now, moving in what seems to be a deliberate pattern." The Vidari commander's ears flattened slightly, a sign of annoyance in his species. "Dr. Wright, we have monitored this sector for centuries. There is nothing there that we don't already know about. But this is exactly why your species requires guidance," Thrax interrupted. "You see phantoms where none exist. You waste resources chasing shadows." He turned to leave. "Focus on your assigned research, Doctor. Leave security matters to those with experience." After he left, Samantha slumped in her chair, frustration building inside her. The conquered races were brilliant and advanced, but they could also be arrogant, and dismissive. She saved her data to a private drive and made a decision. If the Vidari wouldn't listen, perhaps someone else would. Thousands of miles away on Earth, in the newly established Concord Technology Exchange Center, Navy engineer Kevin Peterson was having similar troubles. He stood in a large workshop surrounded by pieces of alien technology, facing the unimpressed stare of Delegate Zinn, a Genta scientist assigned to oversee human adaptation of Concord Tech. "Your modifications are unnecessary," the crystalline being said, light pulsing through its transparent body in patterns of disapproval. "You've added 3 redundant power circuits to a system designed with perfect efficiency." Kevin ran a hand through his short brown hair. "With respect, Delegate, our tests show these shields become vulnerable to electromagnetic disruption after sustained hits. My modifications ensure they remain operational even under those conditions. No conquered vessel has lost shields to such an attack in over 500 years. Zinn's tone was patronizing. "Your species' obsession with failure scenarios is holding back your integration." "It's not an obsession," Kevin argued. "It's preparation. What's the harm in having backups?" "The harm is in the resources wasted, the efficiency lost, and the backward thinking it represents." Zinn moved toward the door. "I will not approve these modifications for the exchange program. Remove them and follow the original specifications." After the Genta left, Kevin stared at his work. The alien was brilliant, no doubt, but also blind to possibilities outside their experience. He carefully packed the prototype into a secure case. Official approval or not, he wasn't about to abandon an idea that might save lives someday. Meanwhile, in Geneva, at the Human Concord Liaison Office, intelligence analyst Diane Russell was facing her own battle. The conference room fell silent as she finished presenting her findings to the Concord Security Council. 5 alien representatives stared at her with expressions ranging from confusion to amusement. "Let me understand," said Counselor Alara, an Elindrian whose skin currently showed patterns of blue and green that humans had learned indicated skepticism. "You believe there is an unidentified presence moving through Concord space based on communication gaps?" Diane stood her ground. "Not just gaps, Counselor, it's the pattern of the gaps. Something is disrupting deep space communications in a way that suggests deliberate movement. It's subtle, but consistent." The Mirith representative's antennae twitched. "Our communication network is the most advanced in known space. It does, not simply gap." "With respect," Diane continued, "I've cross-referenced these anomalies with historical data. There's precedent for this type of disruption proceeding." "Enough," the Vidari counselor interrupted. "Human analyst Russell, while we appreciate your enthusiasm, your conclusions represent fear-based thinking rather than evidence-based analysis." The Genta counselor added, "Perhaps humans need to evolve past seeing threats in every shadow before taking on greater responsibilities within the Concord." Laughter rippled through the chamber. That strange, alien laughter that never failed to make humans feel small and primitive. Diane gathered her materials with as much dignity as she could muster. 6 years in military intelligence, 3 more with international security, and now she was being dismissed like a child imagining monsters under the bed. Later that evening, in her small apartment, Diane's secure communication panel lit up. An incoming call from a restricted channel. She accepted it cautiously. Dr. Samantha Wright's face appeared on screen. Though they had never met in person, Diane recognized her from the directory of human personnel working on Concord projects. "Analyst Russell, I'm sorry to contact you directly, but I think we need to talk. I've been monitoring some unusual energy signatures at the edge of Concord space." Diane leaned forward. "Let me guess. No one's taking you seriously?" "Exactly. And I've just received a message from a Navy engineer named Kevin Peterson, who's having similar issues with shield technology assessments." A moment later, a third face joined their call, Kevin Peterson looking tired but determined. "Ladies," he said with a grim nod, "I think we have a problem." "The Concord won't listen," Diane said. "They think we're being paranoid." Samantha's expression hardened. Then we need to prepare on our own. If I'm right about what I'm seeing out there, we don't have much time. Kevin nodded. I've got some ideas about improving our defenses, but I'll need help. And I have access to intelligence resources, Diane added. If the conquered won't act, humanity will have to protect itself. The three looked at each other through the screen, strangers united by a common concern, and a growing certainty that something dangerous was coming their way. The question was whether anyone would be ready when it arrived. The old military bunker 20 miles outside of Denver had been abandoned for decades before the government quietly reopened it. Now it hummed with activity as the heart of what the small group of humans called Project Cassandra, named after the woman in ancient stories who could see the future but was never believed. Diane Russell stood at the center of the command room, surrounded by screens showing data streams from across the galaxy. She had pulled every string, called in every favor, and risked her career to build this unauthorized monitoring network. "How's our coverage?" she asked the young technician beside her. "We've got about 60% of the border regions under surveillance," he replied. "Using the old satellites was brilliant. The Conquered doesn't even register them as functioning technology. Sometimes being primitive has its advantages," Diane said with a small smile. The door opened and Dr. Samantha Wright entered, looking exhausted but excited. After being removed from her position at Station Epsilon for resource misallocation, she had thrown herself into analyzing the mysterious energy signatures. "I've confirmed it," she said without preamble. "The patterns match. It's a fleet, moving in a coordinated formation. And it's big. At least 500 ships based on energy output." Diane felt her stomach tighten. "Timeline? 2 months until they reach conquered space, maybe less if they increase speed. Have you told the Concord?" 3 times. They're still calling it sensor ghosts or natural phenomena. Samantha's frustration was clear in every line of her body. They've started using a new phrase for human warnings. Pulling a right. It means raising false alarms. "Their loss," Diane said. "Their arrogance gives us time to prepare." The main doors slid open again, and Kevin Peterson walked in with Admiral Olivia Dunn. After returning from the first contact mission, Olivia had been promoted and now served as humanity's highest representative in the Conquered Military Command. A largely ceremonial position, but one that gave her access to crucial information. "Kevin's shield modifications are ready for full deployment," Olivia announced to the room. "The production facilities in Australia and Brazil are working around the clock." Kevin nodded, his expression serious. "We've adapted the Genta shield technology but added our own twist. If these energy weapons are what I think they are, the Conquered ships will drop shields after the first volley. Ours won't." Samantha raised an eyebrow. "And how did you test them?" "We didn't tell the Conquered we were testing," Olivia said with a slight smile. "We told them we were conducting therapeutic activities for our naturally anxious species. They find our safety drills amusing." Dr. Alan Foster joined them, bringing up schematics on the main screen. Since the first contact, he had been working with a small team of medical researchers, preparing for worst-case scenarios. "The biological countermeasures are progressing well," he reported. "We've developed broad-spectrum treatments based on our experience with pandemic response. If these visitors bring any biological weapons, we'll be ready." Commander Jack Miller stood at the back of the room, silently observing. As head of military strategy for Project Cassandra, he had been coordinating with Earth's armed forces, preparing them for a fight unlike any humanity had faced before. "The fleet is prepped and ready," he said. "We've retrofitted every ship we can with Kevin's shields. Training simulations are running day and night." Olivia looked around at the determined faces before her. In just 6 months, this small group had accomplished what many would have thought impossible. While the rest of humanity celebrated its new place in the galactic community, they had been preparing for war. "What about the colonies?" she asked. "Luna Base and Mars Settlement have full defensive upgrades," Kevin replied. "The outer colonies have received shield generators and emergency protocols." Diane pulled up a new set of images. "We've identified the likely first targets based on the intruder's approach vector. Unfortunately, they'll hit Vidari space first." Have you warned them? Alan asked. I tried, Olivia said, her expression grim. Last week at the Concord Defense Committee meeting, the Vidari High Commander laughed and said that if I was concerned, Earth could send its mighty fleet of backup ships to patrol their border. They think we're joking, Samantha said bitterly. No, Jack corrected her. They think we're cowards. There's a difference. A silence fell over the room as they considered what was coming. Humanity had barely established itself among the stars, and now faced a threat that the older, more advanced species refused to acknowledge. There's one more thing, Kevin said, breaking the silence. I've been analyzing the Concord Defense Network. It's impressive when it works, but it has a critical flaw. He brought up a diagram showing the interconnected defense systems of the 17 conquered species. They've integrated everything into a single network for maximum efficiency. Weapons, shields, communications, it's all connected. If one part fails, everything fails, Olivia finished. No redundancies. Exactly. We've kept our systems separate. They call it inefficient. We call it prudent. Diane checked her watch. The Vidari battlecruiser will be passing through Earth orbit in about 2 hours. Admiral, are you ready for your performance? Olivia straightened her uniform. Oh yes. Another demonstration of human overcaution for their amusement. Just enough to keep our cover while we finish preparations. Later that day, Olivia stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the UES Defender, watching as the massive Vidari battlecruiser approached. Beside her, the Vidari captain Krantz observed Earth's fleet with barely concealed amusement. Another drill, Admiral Dunn? He asked. Your species does love its practice. Just routine exercises, she replied smoothly. We find it helps calm our naturally anxious tendencies. Ah yes, pulling a right, he said with a rumbling laugh. It has become quite the saying among the Concord. Your Dr. Wright sees threats in empty space, and now all humans must prepare for imaginary dangers. Better prepared for nothing than unprepared for something, Olivia said with a diplomatic smile. The Vidari's expression softened slightly. Your species reminds me of the Arkathi, small prey animals from my home world, always watching the sky for predators that no longer exist. And yet, Olivia said quietly, the Arkathi survive. True enough, Krantz conceded, though it must be exhausting, living in constant fear. As the Vidari ship departed, Olivia returned to her private quarters and opened a secure channel to Project Cassandra. They suspect nothing, she reported. Continue with full deployment. Based on Samantha's latest calculations, we have less than 7 weeks before first contact with the unknown fleet. On her screen, Diane nodded grimly. Let's hope we're wrong about all of this. And if we're right? Jack asked from somewhere, off-screen. Olivia's expression hardened. Then the so-called cowards will show everyone how to fight. The attack came 3 days earlier than predicted. No warning, no demands, no communication of any kind. Just destruction. Commander Thrax was on the bridge of the Vidari defense station when the first enemy ships appeared. The massive vessels simply materialized at the edge of the system, their hulls black as space itself, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and move. Unidentified vessels approaching, reported his second-in-command. No response to hails. Thrax stood tall, his golden mane bristling with anticipation rather than fear. The Vidari had not faced a true battle in generations. Some secretly welcomed the chance. Activate defense grid. All ships to combat positions, he ordered. Show these intruders the might of the Concord. The Vidari fleet moved into formation, their sleek ships glowing with power as weapons charged. The first volleys launched, streaking across space toward the unknown vessels, and did absolutely nothing. The enemy ships absorbed the attacks without slowing. Then they returned fire. Strange pulses of energy washed over the Vidari vessels, and one by one, their shields failed completely. What's happening? Thrax demanded, as alarms blared across his bridge. Restore shields. Systems are not responding, his officer replied, panic creeping into his voice. It's some kind of energy pulse. It's disrupting all power systems, exactly as Kevin Peterson had predicted. Before Thrax could issue another order, the enemy fired again, this time with conventional weapons that tore through the now defenseless Vidari ships. The mighty fleet, pride of the Concord, began to break apart. Thrax managed to send one message before his station fell. Unknown hostile force, shields ineffective, request immediate assistance. The message spread across conquered space, from the Vidari border to the Genta homeworlds. Everywhere the response was the same: disbelief, then panic. The Genta attempted to coordinate a defense through their central AI network, only to have it collapse under a precisely targeted cyber attack. Elendrian diplomatic vessels were caught and destroyed as they tried to establish communication. Within 24 hours, 3 conquered worlds had gone dark. The invaders, now identified as the Vorax, a hive mind species intent on consuming all resources, advanced without slowing. On Earth, Admiral Olivia Dunn stood before the emergency session of the conquered leadership, who had fled to the one world they had previously mocked for its paranoia. Project Cassandra is no longer classified, she announced to the stunned alien representatives. As of this moment, all human resources are committed to defending against the Vorax threat. The Vidari High Commander, his proud bearing now shaken, stared at her. You knew this was coming. We suspected, Olivia corrected. We tried to warn you. Why didn't you insist? Demanded a Genta delegate. Why prepare in secret? Dr. Alan Foster stepped forward. Would you have believed us? You called Dr. Wright's findings sensor ghosts. You laughed at our redundant systems. You told us we thought like prey animals. The room fell silent. None of that matters now, Olivia continued. What matters is that humanity stands ready to fight. Our fleet may be smaller, but our ships have been equipped with modified shields that can withstand the Vorax energy pulses. On the main screen, she displayed the human battle plan. Commander Miller will lead our tactical response. Dr. Wright will coordinate intelligence. Kevin Peterson's team will work to adapt our shield technology to your remaining vessels. The Elendrian ambassador's skin had turned a pale blue of shame. We treated your caution as cowardice. We were wrong. You're not the first to underestimate humans, Olivia said simply. Let's make sure you're not the last. 3 days later, the largest battle in conquered history took place at the Arcturus Junction, a vital transportation hub connecting 5 major systems. The Vorax fleet, now numbering over 700 ships, pressed forward in their relentless advance. Waiting for them was a much smaller force, 200 ships from Earth and its colonies, plus 80 surviving vessels from various Concord species that had been rapidly retrofitted with human shield technology. Commander Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, surveying the assembled fleet. The human vessels looked crude next to the elegant alien designs, but appearances could be deceiving. All ships maintain formation, he ordered. Remember your training. These creatures may be advanced, but they've never faced humans before. The Vorax struck first, launching the same energy pulses that had devastated the Concord's finest ships. This time, the results were different. The human shields flickered but held, the redundant systems kicking in exactly as designed. Return fire, Jack ordered. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in 3,000 years. The Vorax, used to quick victories, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to break. When communications were jammed, the human ships switched to pre-planned maneuvers. When main weapons were damaged, secondary systems engaged. On the Defender, Jack coordinated the defense. Group 3, fall back to position Beta. Groups 1 and 5, pincer movement now. The bridge rocked as the ship took a direct hit. Shields. At 40%, reported his tactical officer. Switch to backup generator, Jack ordered calmly. Rotate frequencies as planned. The shield stabilized. Across the fleet, human ships were taking damage but staying in the fight. A Vidari captain, fighting alongside the humans, watched in astonishment as a heavily damaged Earth vessel continued firing despite having lost half its hull. How do they keep fighting? He asked over the command channel. Because we expected to get hurt, Jack replied. We prepared for it. The turning point came when Vorax boarding parties managed to breach several ships. Here again, humanity's history served it well. While the conquered species had forgotten the arts of close combat over centuries of peace, humans had trained for it. Marine squads led by Jack's best officers repelled the boarders using tactics developed over thousands of years of warfare. After 6 hours of brutal fighting, the Vorax fleet broke formation for the first time, pulling back from the junction. "They're retreating," said the tactical officer, disbelief in her voice. "No," Jack corrected. "They're regrouping. This was just the first round." He opened a channel to all ships. "Well done, everyone. Make repairs, tend to your wounded. We've shown them humans know how to fight." As the fleet took stock of their losses and prepared for the next engagement, a message arrived from Earth. Dr. Samantha Wright had analyzed the data from the battle and found something crucial, a pattern in the Vorax ship's movements that suggested a centralized control system. Jack immediately contacted Admiral Dunn. "If Wright is correct, we might have a chance to end this, but we'll need the Conquered's help." On Earth, Olivia looked at the assembled alien leaders, who now watched her with newfound respect. "The cowards just saved your worlds," she said. "Now are you ready to learn how humans really fight?" The war room inside Cheyenne Mountain hummed with activity. Once a relic of Earth's Cold War, the hardened facility had become the command center for humanity's fight against the Vorax. Representatives from all 17 Concord species crowded around tables with human military officers, studying battle plans and sharing information. Admiral Olivia Dunn entered the room and conversations quieted. The last month had aged her, lines of exhaustion marking her face, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. "The Vorax have consolidated their position in the Proxima sector," she began. "They've taken 7 Concord worlds and stripped them of resources. Their main fleet is regrouping, likely for a push toward the core systems." The Vidari High Commander, once so dismissive of human caution, now listened with respectful attention. "What is your assessment, Admiral?" "We can't win. A war of attrition. The Vorax outnumber us and can replace ships faster than we can. We need a decisive strike." Dr. Alan Foster stepped forward. Working with Gentah scientists, he had made a breakthrough in understanding the Vorax biology. The Vorax operate as a hive mind. Their individual drones have limited independence. They rely on command ships to coordinate complex actions. He brought up a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Vorax vessel captured in the last battle. Their neural network has a distinct signature. More importantly, it has a vulnerability. Kevin Peterson continued the briefing, pointing to specific areas of the alien ship. Their biological components are susceptible to a specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation, harmless to us and most conquered species, but devastating to their neural pathways. "A weakness," the Alindrian diplomat said, their skin shifting to a hopeful green. "But their ships are well defended. How do we deliver this weapon?" Diane Russell smiled slightly. "The old-fashioned way. We get close enough to use it." Commander Jack Miller outlined the military strategy. "Operation Breakwater. We draw their main fleet into a confrontation at these coordinates, away from their reinforcements. Meanwhile, a small strike team penetrates their defenses and deploys the weapon directly into their command structure." The plan was daring, even reckless by Concord standards, but after a month of war, the alien representatives had learned that human strategies, while often appearing chaotic, contained hidden wisdom. "Who will lead this strike team?" asked the Gentah delegate. "It would require exceptional skill and what you humans call courage." "I will," Jack said simply. "With a joint human-Concord team, we'll need the best from all our species." As the meeting ended and preparations began, Samantha Wright found herself working alongside the same Vidari commander who had once dismissed her warnings. "You knew," Commander Thrax said quietly, "when you saw those energy signatures at Station Epsilon. You recognized what I could not." Samantha continued calibrating her equipment without looking up. "I didn't know. I suspected. There's a difference." "Yet, you prepared as if you knew with certainty." "That's what humans do," she replied. "We prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." Thrax's expression changed. the alien equivalent of a thoughtful frown. My people have a saying, only the fearful warrior returns home. I never truly understood it until now. 2 days later, the combined fleet moved into position. Human vessels formed the front lines, their modified shields ready to absorb the initial Vorax attack. Behind them, the remaining Concorde ships waited, many now retrofitted with Kevin's redundant systems. On the UES Defender, Admiral Dunn addressed the fleet. Today we fight not just for Earth or for the Concorde, but for all sentient life in our galaxy. The Vorax consume without conscience, destroy without mercy. They believe us weak and divided. Let us show them how wrong they are. The Vorax arrived exactly as predicted, their vast fleet darkening space like a storm cloud. The battle began, with a furious exchange of fire, human ships holding the line while taking heavy damage. Meanwhile, Jack Miller led a small, fast vessel through the chaos of combat. His team, 4 humans and 1 representative from each of the major Concorde species, had a single mission: reach the Vorax command ship and deploy Alan Foster's weapon. "Shields failing," reported his pilot as they took another hit. "We can't take much more of this. Switch to backup generator 3, Jack ordered calmly. Continue approach." A Vidari warrior looked at him with newfound respect. "You humans really do plan for everything." "Not everything," Jack replied. "Just the things that can kill us." When their main engines failed, they switched to secondary drives. When those failed, they used emergency thrusters. System after system broke down, but each time, a backup engaged. The small ship, battered and sparking, finally reached the massive Vorax command vessel. "Boarding team ready," Jack said, checking his weapon. "Remember, we only need 5 minutes to plant the device and activate it." The team fought their way through the nightmarish interior of the Vorax ship, facing drone warriors that moved with insect-like precision. The conquered warriors fought with skill, but it was the humans' adaptability that kept the mission moving forward. When planned routes were blocked, they found alternatives. When weapons failed, they improvised. Finally, they reached the central neural chamber, a pulsing organic core surrounded by technology. Jack placed Alan's device against the wall and activated it. 3 minutes to full discharge, he reported. Time to leave. But the way back was cut off by Vorax drones. With communications jammed, the strike team prepared for a last stand. "It seems we will not return to see our victory," the Alindrian team member said sadly. Jack checked his final backup weapon, a simple projectile gun that required no power source. "Don't count humans out just yet. We're pretty hard to kill." What happened next would become legend in both human and conquered history. Jack's team fought their way to an external airlock, timing their escape precisely as Alan's device activated. The electromagnetic pulse swept through the Vorax neural network, disrupting the hive mind that coordinated the entire fleet. Across the battlefield, Vorax ships suddenly lost formation, their movements becoming erratic or ceasing entirely. Without central coordination, the mighty armada fell into disarray. Admiral Dunn, watching from the Defender, gave the order: "All ships, full attack. Target their disabled vessels first." The combined fleet surged forward, human and Concorde ships fighting side by side. What had begun as a desperate defense transformed into decisive victory. 3 days later, with the Vorax threat contained and their surviving ships retreating from conquered space, the leaders of all species gathered on Earth. In a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy, the Vidari High Commander presented Admiral Dunn with their highest honor. "The humans taught us a lesson we had forgotten," he announced. "That caution is not cowardice. That preparation is not paranoia. That sometimes those who fear danger most are those most ready to face it." The Concorde was transformed. The Genta began incorporating human-inspired redundancies in all new designs. The Alindrians revised their official assessment of humanity, now describing them as the watchful guardians of the night. In the years that followed, a new Concorde defense protocol was established, based on human principles of preparation and resilience. Admiral Olivia Dunn, now Fleet Admiral of the Joint Forces, often reflected on how quickly perceptions had changed. "They called us cowards because we planned for failure. she remarked to Jack Miller during the rebuilding of the first Vidari world. They never understood that acknowledging fear is the beginning of courage. Jack watched as human and alien engineers worked together, installing systems with multiple backups and contingency plans. "Do you think they understand now?" Olivia smiled. "I think they're learning. Sometimes the universe needs both those who hope for the best and those who prepare for the worst." "And the humans? We'll keep doing what we've always done," she said. "Expecting trouble, planning for disaster, and hoping we're wrong," Jack laughed. "The cowardly humans." "Yes," Olivia agreed, watching the stars where the combined fleet now stood guard. "The cowardly humans who saved the galaxy."